Welcome to the Vernon Verdict Sports Show. I'm your host, Jacob Vernon, joined by my guy, G Sports. G, good morning. What's up, man? How you feeling?
What it do, man? Lovely day in the neighborhood today, man. What it do? What it do?
Got a lot of news to talk about. Over the weekend, huge bomb got dropped in terms of breaking news. Derek Carr says, I think I'm done. I'm hanging it up, coach. And then LSU lost a recruit. We'll break down all that recruit news and all that good stuff. Then we'll talk about some Pelicans basketball, mix it up on them a little bit, G. Let's start it off with the obvious, the most impactful, one of the biggest storylines, quite frankly, that I've seen ever in terms of watching New Orleans Saints football. So if you didn't see somehow, some way, Derek Carr suffering from a rotator cuff issue. They're calling it a degenerative issue, meaning I guess the tendons, the muscles, they're all going to continue to deteriorate, and just going through a surgery like that, going through it at this age, it might be tough to recover. And he wasn't really feeling it. And the public reaction, G, felt like Mardi Gras. I ain't gonna lie. You saw a lot of people in the streets partying. You saw a lot of people celebrating. And it's another one of those things that's kind of wild. I'm like, well, I've never really seen people rejoice on a retirement like that. But either way, the quarterback outlook, Tyler Shaw, Spencer Rattler, Jake Heiner, we've been talking about it. Writing's been on the wall for Tyler Shaw, especially after you select him. That's the first time they selected a quarterback that high since Archie Manning, G.
Right.
It's pretty clear. Now, let me get your initial reaction to that, and then we're going to kind of talk about this cap situation that NOLA always finds themselves in.
First, first off, man, I gotta give Derek Carr a lot of props. Got a lot of respect for him making a decision when he did it. This dude could have played this thing out and got the $30 million this year
Yep.
from the Saints. Like, if he really wanted to. But I think he knew um that was gonna put the Saints in a bad situation from a cap standpoint. And he knew he had no intention on doing his rehab and wanted to go through that surgery. And so him deciding to call it a career, I commend him on that, man, and let the Saints figure this thing out and what their quarterback situation gonna look like the next, you know, 5 to 10 years. That's something that we about to see with Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shaw, and I don't think Jay Hayner will be in the mix of that, but we about to get a clear vision on how this thing gonna look. Uh, I remember when with the game it happened with the shoulder, man. It was the Giants game. Uh, he landed on it pretty bad. I remember seeing him on the sideline laid out, and he talked about how he hadn't thrown a football since March. And when he went to throw the football, man, he just felt a lot of pain, a lot of sharp pain in his shoulder, man. And so uh I think initially a lot of the fans thought that this was it was a smoke screen when they were saying he might need surgery, and there
Yep.
was some things going on behind the scenes. But as you can see, it was all true. And fans can be brutal sometimes. People, celebrating and showing how happy they are that he retired, man. I feel like, that was a bit much. Even though Derek Carr didn't get us to the playoffs, and he didn't have these last 3 seasons, he didn't produce how we anticipated him to produce, especially with the money we paid him. Um, I think we could have had to give him a little more grease. All right, I think we could have sent him out a little better than that. I can only imagine what his family is going through, seeing all that negativity all on social media, man. But all in all, you know, I hope he figures out what he want to do in his later life. And we need to just be a little more mindful, man. Because I know that probably was a tough decision. You've been playing football all your life. You gave the NFL 11 seasons, and to say I'm not playing anymore, I know that had to be a real tough decision for him, man. So you know, kudos to Derek Carr and his family, man. And I just think people need to be a little mindful on how they went about uh reacting to this when they got the news, bro.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that really went talked about enough in terms of just having to swallow your pride and make the best business decision, or just a personal decision. Even a lot of athletes want to try to stick it out, and then to make that call and hang it up definitely is going to put a lot of strenuous feelings on you, especially with all the stuff he's been talking about lately. And it's like there's always more than meets the eye. G, it ain't just ball. It ain't just being an athlete. There's a lot more behind that helmet. So
Definitely.
Let's talk about this cap space. So apparently, with a $30 million restructure, the Saints are going to see that in 2026. That's what I'm seeing. Now, in 2026, also, people were expecting a $69 million cap hit in terms of dead cap, but that's going to get lowered, $39 million. And according to Over the Cap, the New Orleans Saints next year, even with a salary cap increase, could see them being in the red by $42 million. Now, why? There's a couple of reasons. So more dead money to account for as well. These are your biggest ones: Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, Taysom Hill, Tyrann Mathieu. It's $50 million between those. $18 million for Cam Jordan, $14 for Demario, $9 for the others, Taysom and Tyrann. Here's my question. This is the same problem that gets the Saints in this spot annually. I feel like we always can talk about Saints and cap issues. It's just every single season. How do you kick this can down the road? You can't extend people like that. Taysom, Tyrann, Cam, Demario. Writings on the wall. They're going to be the next Saints that are going to be retiring. What do you do in this situation? Because like I said, you ain't kicking the can no more. Now you got to figure it out.
Me personally, bro, I just feel like Mickey Loomis did some bad deals. The money he gave Taysom Hill, I thought that was absurd. I thought Taysom Hill didn't deserve all the money that he got with his contract, especially when you talk about somebody that doesn't have a position that he plays full time. And even though he does a lot of different things like quarterback, tight end, special teams, and all of that, he didn't do one particular position great. He did a lot of those things well, but he didn't do anything great. And I just didn't feel like he deserved what he got, I think 3 years, 30 million or something like that.
They're giving him like 10 and a half,
Yeah,
especially.
getting 10, like that's absurd to me. Mickey Loomis, need to be evaluated for making a deal like that. The money he gave Cam Jordan, I felt like once, especially in the trenches, once you start getting into that third and fourth contract, you can't pay a D lineman that kind of money unless they just still playing at an elite level. And although Cam Jordan is the heart and soul of that defense, or one of the main contributors on that defense, when you talk about from a leadership standpoint, uh, I just thought that the money he's getting paid it doesn't make sense when you start talking about trying to construct a team together and from a business standpoint. All right. And then you
Right.
talk about Tyrann Mathieu. All right. You gave Tyrann Mathieu that money, and we know that Tyrann is on a downside of his career right now, bro. And I think a lot of those deals just came from Mickey Loomis reaching. And so now, they're gonna have to figure some things out. Uh, I believe that this is Tyrann Matthews and Cam Jordan's last year as a Saint though. I think Demario Davis probably will play a year or two with the Saints. But I don't see Tyrann Matthew and Cam Jordan coming back after this year. I just don't see it.
So with that being said, if they pay them those dead caps, they retire. They're theoretically off the books for the Saints. And now you think that they could finally like step into this refreshing, like we're out of this debt, we're out of this financial hell that we've been in. Like, you think the Saints can finally turn this corner, or they might have a couple of other tough decisions to make?
It all comes down to this, bro. You gotta hope that some of these draft picks hit. That's the only way they're gonna be able to get out of this. All right. Because if you gotta rely on going in free agency and getting good players to come and make your team better, it's gonna be tough on them with all this money they got all wrapped up with Tyrann Matthew, Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, and Taysom Hill. All right.
Mhm.
So they gotta hope, Tyler Shaw, Spencer Rattler hit at the quarterback position. You know what I'm saying? You gotta hope Shaheed start hitting, who was an undrafted receiver, right? You gotta hope that Carl Granderson and Chase Young keeps playing at a high level, right? You gotta hope that Quincy Riley comes in and Kool-Aid McKinstry takes that starting spot and he turns into an elite player, right? Is a lot of different variables that come into this if the Saints want to be a good team the next couple of years. And so that's normally what you see from a lot of teams that make these runs in the playoffs, man. They hit on their draft picks. All right. You can't, especially in the NFL, bro, you can't just rely on free agency. It's
Right.
a little different in the NBA. So I think if some of these draft picks could hit, the Saints could be right back into being one of those teams that's relevant again.
So many positions to be able to address. Yeah, it's a whole different ball game in the NFL in terms of building that future and trying to get all those bodies in and get them in a row and get them in a line. It's going to be interesting. Let's segue over to the LSU recruit news. I feel like this is a similar topic as well, trying to get everybody on the same page, balancing between the portal, balancing between recruiting. My first thing, before we talk about the Jakai Anderson decommit, the full class, where's LSU's rankings? How, in your opinion, G, do you think you prioritize recruiting people and building for the future while also trying to like adjust for the right now in terms of the portal? Like, talk about that strategy and what goes into that. Because I feel like LSU's been doing pretty good. They top 10 recruiting classes. Obviously, right now you got the number one portal class. What goes into that? You think is it more strategy? Is it more just recruiting efforts or?
Every program is different, bro. With me being a Michigan fan, I like the way Harbaugh and them did it since he been there. And when the portal stuff started and NIL stuff started, the nucleus of their team, 80% of their team was guys they recruited there. And they won the national championship. Ohio State, same thing. Yeah, they got some kids at the portal here and there, like a Juckins and Will Howard, the quarterback. But the majority of that roster is guys they recruited there. And so that's what you gotta rely on, man, if you want to be a real program and compete for a national championship year in and year out. Because when you bring in all these guys in from the portal and you putting all your eggs into that, it's not a recipe for success, in my opinion. To think you're gonna see success year in and year out. All right, because they don't understand your culture, they don't have a chemistry with their teammates. It's just a lot of different things that go on. When you got these guys that you recruited, this is your guys. You know these guys in and out, and you have a better relationship with them. They've been in your system longer, and so it pays off on Saturdays. So I just think that yes, you still have to go in the portal, and that's just the time we living in. You still got to do that, but the bulk of your team and the nucleus of your team got to come from you recruiting these kids into your program, and I think that Brian Kelly understands that. But ever since when he took this roster over, when Ogeron got fired, the roster was so messed up. He had to go hit that portal so hard to be in some kind of relevancy in the SEC. And I think with this year's class that just came in, a 25 class, there's 26 classes that are gonna come in, and along with the guys that he brought in when he first got here, that's been here 3 years now, like a Ashton Stamps, right? People like that. Chris Hilton. No, Chris Hilton was here before Brian Kelly. But when you start getting these guys in your system for 3 years, now you can start seeing the fruits of your labor, bro. So I just think that that's what they're gonna have to rely on, in my opinion. With this class, you know, losing Jakai Anderson, in my opinion, that hurts. Um, I'm really high on Jakai Anderson. Been watching the kid since he was in ninth grade. I know that people are probably looking at his ranking and say, okay, no big deal. LSU lost Jakai Anderson. But I'm telling y'all right now, he got some elite neighbors in him. All right. He got some elite neighbors in him, dog. He could run, he could track the ball, he got a mindset about himself. Like, I really, really like Jakai Anderson. To be honest with you, out of the three receivers that's committed to LSU from Louisiana, Darby and Jabari Mack, I thought Jakai Anderson was the best of the three. And losing him, I'm telling y'all, that's a big deal in my opinion. All right. Tristan Keys, I know people saying, well, we still got Tristan Keys. Man, you don't know how this about to play out over these next 3 months.
Exactly.
You got all excited when the Carr and Mo committed, and you saw how that happened. All right. Now I hear they close to getting Booby Feaster out of DeSoto, Texas. Now the only reason I feel kind of good about that is because he's from Louisiana. All right. And he's been having a relationship with his staff going back to his 8th grade year. I remember being at the LSU camp when he was there as an 8th grader. I'm thinking this kid is a junior, sophomore. And like, no, this kid in the 8th grade. And he got an offer that day as an 8th grader. So,
Enjoy.
yeah. So Hankton and Coach Kelly and Brad Davis and Frank Wilson, they are very, very familiar with Booby Feaster. And like I said, with him being from Louisiana, will help. So, if they can get him committed, I know he's going to USC on June 6th. And that's supposed to be one of his favorites. And you gotta know that Jakeem Stewart and Trevon Reed and Eric Henderson, them boot boys over there at USC gonna try to do everything in their power to get him committed there. All right. And I know USC gonna have a lot to offer, not just from the NIL standpoint, but from a football standpoint. Look, come here and be the man. Come here and be the guy out here on the West Coast. You know, so LA to LA. All right, they already got Roger to Tanzino from Opelousas Cali committed to USC. So they gonna have they work cut out for him, trying to make sure that Booby Feaster signs with LSU, and they gonna need him. Especially with the receivers that are gonna possibly leave after this year. You got to think about it. Chris Hilton probably gone. Aaron
Aaron.
Anderson's probably gone. Barry Brown's probably gone. Xavier Thomas is gone. All right, so that room is gonna look way different next year.
Mm-hmm.
So uh I think if you get Booby Feaster and Jabari Mack and Darby and some kind of way they get Tristan Keys to stay committed and sign that piece of paper, you could be looking pretty good going into the future. You could be looking pretty good going into the future because now, Colin Billiard's gonna be coming back. Destin Hill's gonna be coming back. Uh, I think Nick Anderson's probably gonna need another year, and so that receiver room could be really really talented.
Wanted to ask you about this too. Let's just talk a little more in depth about this Jakai Anderson situation. So SMU, that's who flipped the commitment. Now, just first off, I wanted to just say, wow, you're in a whole entire different spot in college football now. When you got SMU coming into the boot and taking a commitment for over a year, my first question, do you think that it's even over? I mean, there's a relationship there, I feel like, but like you were saying, you don't know anymore. Do you think that they could potentially flip him back? Is it all but over? Or are they going to try to recoup and put it all on Booby? Like, what's that mindset?
So this is how these things are going to go in recruiting. And people haven't figured it out. When you talk about the smaller D1 schools like a SMU, right? When it comes to NIL, they're going to overpay for a kid that's committed to a LSU or Alabama or something like that. And what it does is it has brought a ton of publicity to the SMU program. We got LSU commit to flip to SMU. Come on, man.
And
And
they've
that's
all
going to help with their recruiting. And I don't know if people understand and realize this, but they got a shitload of money in Dallas.
bruh, I was about to bring up the tuition, G. It's a private school. You got to pay 65 grand a year.
Yep.
Think
Yep.
about
It's a
the
private
money.
school. Is equivalent to like a Tulane or a Vanderbilt or University of Virginia. Is equivalent to that when you start talking about the academics side of it too. So they just got a shitload of money in Dallas. They got a lot of resources out there. So the NIL package that they gave Jakai Anderson was worth his while for him and his family, bro. And so um, LSU, they just wasn't going to match what SMU was willing to give him. All right, and that played a big part into it. And I also got to give SMU staff some credit, bro. Jakai Anderson, mama talked about how the staff just did a great job of building a relationship with her and her son. They went up there on a visit, and the whole staff was just so welcoming, and they feel like they really, really got to know him. They came down here to the school. They came to her house. Um, just been doing a great job of recruiting him, going back to the old school way, right? It wasn't just about the NIL. So let me make that clear. Played a big part, but it wasn't just about that. And I just think that sometimes when you the home team, you get a little comfortable and a little complacent because kids from the boot or have LSU as their dream school, and you think you don't have to do as much far as recruiting wise, right? But this is a prime example of I think SMU probably felt that. I'm sure the mom and Jakai probably communicated that to them that they felt like um their relationship with the staff at LSU probably wasn't where they felt like it needed it to be, and SMU capitalized on that. The mom says she talks to at least one or two people on the staff every other day. Now, I don't know what you got that much to talk about, but hey, it definitely got him lured in, and now he's a Mustang. Do I think it's over? I think it's over.
Okay.
I don't think LSU will be able to get him to sign that piece of paper when the signing day comes. I just don't see unless SMU staff gets fired and they end up going somewhere else or something like that, which that's not going to happen. He just was in a college playoff. Uh, I just don't see LSU getting Jakai Anderson. And again, I think they're gonna regret that.
And not to mention to add a little more oomph for SMU and their future and the outlook. Today it got announced they're gonna do a home and home. In 2028, SMU is coming to Tiger Stadium, and in 2029, they're going to Dallas. We got our guy Jay Woods asking about in the chat. He said he finally caught us live again. What's up, Jay? What do you think about that in terms of them building their brand? Because now it seems like SMU, you're talking about the playoff, you're talking about these recruiting pools, they're building up that capital, they're hell of a good recruiter. Now you get to play some SEC comp. Man. Hey, look, it's not about necessarily winning the game. I just feel like putting them in that position, in that spotlight, stepping up and getting that rub. It might pay off. What you think about that?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a power move for SMU. Uh, their football program has been a joke for a lot of years, bro. And so as of late, they are slowly but surely emerging themselves as one of the mid level, one of the best mid level D1s in the country. All right. I actually thought they was gonna be able to make a run in that college playoff this past season. Um, and I want to say they had like three guys get drafted in this past in this draft a couple weeks ago. So and they got a lot of players coming back on that team that's really really good. Like the quarterback Jennings. I think he's gonna be a sleeper for a Heisman Trophy candidate. I think he that good. And so you know, people that really don't understand the landscape of college football and really don't know too much about SMU, I'm telling y'all right now, that's a really good program. They got a lot of resources out there, and it's they in the heart of Dallas, Texas, bro. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think Jakai Anderson made a good decision going there. All right, a lot of people saying why he didn't try to go to Florida or Alabama or something like that. I think that is a great fit for him. A big fish in a small pond. I think he's gonna do wonders over there.
I agree. And one more little blur before we get out of here. According to a couple of recruiting sites, top 10 recruits in Louisiana, LSU has 6 of them. So they retain the boot decently. I mean, yeah, you got some more work to do. The biggest one that they
They
don't,
better make sure they get Lamar Brown.
it hurts seeing the Blaine Bradford commitment to Ohio State. I would like that as well. But hey, beggars can't be choosers. Shout out Terry Bones Alma Celestine, the Lil YJ number 10. Hey, I think that's going to be interesting as well. Let's move over to this Pelicans talk, G. Joe Dumont, New Orleans. We opened it up with the Saints. We're going to wrap this up with the Pelicans. So they're keeping Willie Green as their head coach, despite the struggles, despite all this attention. They move BI. They add DeJounte Murray. Now my question for you, G, is are they in a spot to strike? Can they take a similar approach to Houston? Shout out the Rockets. Oklahoma City, pile some draft picks, maybe try to make some moves. Like, what is the Pelicans' focus, in your opinion, if they want to get back to competitive playoff basketball?
You got to make a decision what you're gonna do with Zion Williamson.
That's a big one.
If I'm Joe Dumars, I'm trading him. Let's get rid of him. Let's start this thing all fresh. All right. Let's use some of these draft picks and use some of these assets and try to go trade and get a big name in here. All right. I know a lot of people don't like coming to New Orleans because they feel like they're the little brother to the Saints. But Joe Dumars, you have an opportunity to change that narrative. All right. I know a lot of people are excited about having Joe Dumars as now as the executive of basketball operations. Boo Boy, right there from went to Natchitoches Central, played at McNeese, won a championship as a player and won a championship as an executive. Uh, I just the only thing about Joe Dumars that I'm kind of skeptical about is his draft history. All right. I don't doubt his knowledge and his ability to be able to run a team, but I'm just when you look at the people he drafted to the Pistons in his 14 years there as the executive, he didn't really hit on any like too many draft picks. And the only names that come to mind that I remember him drafting when he was with the Pistons that actually turned out to be something was Tayshaun Prince, Greg Monroe, KCP, Caldwell Pope, and Chris Middleton. So and to say you was an executive for 14 years in one organization and you didn't really hit on too many draft picks, that's concerning. That's
Mm-hmm.
concerning. So and the Pelicans has been hitting on draft picks. You know what I mean? So That's the only thing that concerns me about Joe Dumars. But I think he's gonna have to make a decision with Zion. And if I'm Joe Dumars, I'm trading him, bro. I'm not gonna keep putting my organization and my team setting us back like this every season. Because every time Zion get hurt, he get hurt, the team just start falling apart. All
Yep.
right. I think you got to get rid of all them trainers. Get rid of everybody in the medical department. Get rid of you just clean house with it all. You do and just start off scratch. I think that's what Joe Dumars need to do.
Especially the trainers aspect, because there's something going on. You got all the injuries. You talking about McCollum, talking about Murphy. You got every single person. At one point, they had lost their big three or big four, mid four, if it's even considered big. Another thing, too, I want to point out, it's a big transitional period in the NBA also, and you can't get caught lacking. You can't get caught in the transition, get left behind in the dust. Let's look at the Southwest division just to start off with. Rockets are getting competitive. Thunder have been competitive.
Rockets ain't getting competitive, man. We competitive, man. Stop playing, man.
Come on, I gotta
Stop
put the
playing, man.
yes, man. They still, the Grizzlies that are nice. The Spurs are building up, and they in the mix as well. So it's like, look, Pelicans, you could really be bottom of the barrel in a division that, quite frankly, was rebuilding. Like everybody around you rebuild. You got to catch up. If not, it's gonna be ugly
For sure.
And they got some rumors for the Rockets. G. I'm hearing. All right, so they got two names. I'm gonna just pick your brain real quick on what one you would want. Kevin Durant. And then I ain't gonna lie, you did put your Nostradamus hat on again, once again. Like, you don't even take that thing off, bro. Giannis Antetokounmpo. They got two teams that people are alluding them to. Obviously, the Bucks get in the playoffs. He's at home chilling, trying to see what would be potentially his best destination. Now, with San Antonio, I'm just going to go ahead and be a little biased, bro. Greg Popovich is on the way out. They got some changes. They got a couple of things I think they got to figure out. If there is ever a destination I think makes the most sense, it's got to be Houston. Plus, they got a lot of assets to be able to disperse to get that trade even going. What would you rather? Kevin Durant, a little older, probably a little less in terms of trade value, might be able to get him easier, or the Greek Freak and just rebuild around a perennial talent. I ain't gonna lie, that's like Shaq, bro.
Man, I want Giannis, and it's not even close. I want Giannis. That's all I want. I don't know if the reports are true, but they're saying he wants to play with either the Lakers or the Knicks, and I don't know if that's because of the market or if he just like how the team constructed. I don't know, but bro, if he come to the Rockets, probably got to give up either A-Man Thompson or Jalen Green, and if I'm the Rockets, I'm giving up Jalen Green.
Yes, Amen can't, bro. He untouchable. Please don't.
You probably got to give up Jabari. All right, you probably got to give up 3 first-round picks, 4 first-round picks. I'm doing it. I'm throwing the kitchen sink,
bro. Why worry about the first-round pick when you gonna be a damn championship contender? If you think you got the confidence and you really about to go out here and ball, what's a first-round pick? GS 30.
Bro, I am throwing the kitchen sink at the Bucks to get this man. All right, and you still got Sengun, you still got Dylan Brooks, you still got A-Man Thompson, you still got Tyree Easton, bro. Shepard gonna be better next year.
Yo,
come on, man. Udoka coaching that team. Come on, man.
What a blessing. The email Doku thing, because
bro.
Understand all the stuff, and they got a great addition in Missoula. But when that's your replacement, boy, that's beautiful. Especially the Rockets, man. We've been in a spot like the Mike D'Antoni era, bro. I'm tired of seeing a 7-man rotation. I'm tired of seeing 2 people just get thrown out there. Let's use some depth. Let's get physical. Let's put everything out there. Like we did with Steph Curry. Put him in a situation.
Nah, I think they're gonna have to make a decision what they're gonna do with Van Fleet. He getting paid a whole lot of money. He getting older. I like Van Fleet. I just don't know if it makes sense business wise to keep him. So, but we got to do everything in our power to try to get Giannis, bro. Try to get him there.
After they extended that deadline for Van Vliet from like last Friday or 2 Fridays ago to June, that was kind of, it seems like, all right, they're trying to make a trade. If they trade, they're going to get rid of him and decline that. But if they can't find something, they might be like, all right, whatever.
And look, I love Kevin Durant. I don't want him in Houston.
Is it the age? That's what's worrying you?
I just think, we need somebody that's going to be an alpha male, especially with a young group like that. We don't need somebody that's gonna be passive and kind of just go with the flow. We need somebody that's gonna insert themselves and have a mentality on the team, and that's what Giannis gonna bring. So that's why I want Giannis.
It would be hella ironic to get Kevin Durant on the Rockets too, because I ain't gonna lie to you. I remember it clear as day, July 4th. I turn on my TV on ESPN, and Kevin Durant goes to the Warriors, and then the Warriors constantly BTA. Murk the Rockets, murk the Rockets, murk the Rockets. That would be like our kryptonite coming over to the light side, moving on from the dark side. It would be a little close to home. They need to do something though. Don't have me get my hopes up, and then all summer long I'm waiting and waiting. They got to the draft lottery tonight, guys. Pelicans can win the draft lottery. They got, I think, number 3rd chance, like 12.5% chance. The Rockets, though, they have an ability to get a top 10 pick.
Yeah, because they got the Suns pick.
Yep. What a blessing. Shout out to Thunder and the Rockets, because y'all doing work in that draft. I ain't even gonna lie. We'll be breaking down that draft lottery for you as well. Stay tuned Wednesday at 12:30 G. Appreciate your time. Appreciate everybody for watching. Hit that thumbs up. And hopefully Giannis is a Rocket next time we're live. Hey, never know. One of these days, bro.